Heroes of Fantasy Football podcast.
What is going on, everyone? We are back. I have Chris Felice with me, Richard Kopeck down below. I'm your host, Matt High. We are the Heroes of Fantasy Football podcast, wrapping up our rankings episode series with none other than my favorite position, the wide receivers for 2024. So, gentlemen, we are about a week away, just over a week away from the NFL start of the season. Thursday night game. How excited are we?
There's a TikTok out there with the guys, like three of them. They're dancing to like all the separate themes of the NFL out there from like CBS, like the ESPN Fantasy one or whatever. Right, that's me right now. That's me. Like I promise you, that is me in my head. It's just 1,000 of me doing those dances. I hope everyone knows what I'm talking about.
I completely agree with him. I'm super hyped for the season. Can't wait for it to go, so bring on the football.
It's going to be great. We are going to have so much football to talk about, and we are going to be back with everyone every week. We're going to try to pump out a couple more shows. So stay tuned. Go to the link below, hit our subscribe button, click the bell. You'll be notified when we have new stuff coming out. You can follow us on X at the Heroes FF. Obviously, for those of you watching on YouTube, you already know where you are. But for those of you who are not, check out youtube.com/@theheroesff. You can follow us on TikTok. Basically, we're everywhere. So just come find us. We're here. We're hiding in plain sight. You can very easily find us. So without further ado, gentlemen, should we dive right into our top 12 wide receivers for the 2024 season? Let's do it. So, as always, we're going to start from the 12 down to 1. We'll see which guys we have there. Yes, down. Up, down, whatever.
Oh, there you go.
They're just directions, one of these, but either way. So, starting with our wide receiver 12 in the consensus rankings, we have Mr. Puka Nacua on the LA Rams. Last season, historic rookie season, has been injured this offseason. Most recently, but I expect him to be a full participant in practice this coming week. He should not miss any time. I am at 9. Richie has him at 12. Joe down at 17. And Chris at 7. So looks like 3 of us are pretty much in lockstep. Joe could not make it tonight, so he cannot defend himself. But I would assume it's partly a negative regression type thing, plus Cooper Kupp, who him and I are very high on as well. But where do you guys see Puka Nacua this season? Is he going to repeat last year? Should we expect some negative regression, or has he hit his ceiling? What do you guys think?
I'll start before the hater hates on my guy. But no, in all seriousness, now, if we all remember during the Hot Takes episode, I said that he's going to be a top 3 wide receiver. Now, many of you are probably wondering, was Chris serious? Was he crazy? Is he still crazy? I have him at 7 right now. Now, the answer to all those questions, what'd you say?
I said I can answer if you're crazy or not.
Yeah, no, that's very true. The answer is yes. I am insane. I've lost my sanity playing fantasy football, and in return, I've gained something else. Still wondering what that is. But all jokes aside, I don't exactly think he's going to reach the ceiling again, unfortunately. If we're looking at a realistic standpoint, I prop Puka Nacua on this sort of pedestal, mostly as a joke. But I do think he's good, in legitimate sense. I truthfully believe he will attain some sort of, top at least 10 status at the end of the year, which is why I have him at 7. I don't doubt Cooper Kupp in any shape or form. I truthfully also think that he will have a good season as well. I don't really like Cooper Kupp's a little bit of a weird enigma at the moment to rank, which is why I think this issue kind of comes in. I have him at 17 right now, but I'm not, that easily could be better or worse. I have no idea. So with that said, I'll keep him at 7, and I'll move on from there. Rich, what do you think? You have him at 12.
Yeah, so I guess as the resident hater of Puka, right? It's my duty to bash on him, even though it looks like Joe really should be the one doing the bashing here, seeing as he has him ranked so lowly. I think I've just come to terms as to how good Puka is. It's the realization, the having to be right. So I'm not gonna die on that hill alone. I've seen the man play ball. He can play ball. I think the Rams are going to do well this season. I know that I think that Cooper Cup is going to end up with a lot of the overall target share there. I still think that he can get easily to where he finished last season if we can get a healthy Matt Stafford throughout that season. But I guess finishing as the fourth overall receiver like he did this past season, I don't know if I was going to say that, and that's why I am the resident hater. Where I'm not going to be drafting him where he is being drafted currently. I think he's just a little too high for me. So
Which, yeah, I think that I agree with that part. We can love these players, but it depends on where they're being drafted, if they're going to hit or not. And Puka Nacua is great. I would love to have him on my team. Um, I just don't want to pay a back end of the first, early second for him. If I can get him mid second, I'll hit that out all day. I'll be fine. But it's just kind of where he's going is kind of a problem. You're just hoping that he hits that level what he did last year, which he can. I mean, there's nothing that I saw on tape that means he cannot. So we will find that out this season. But I do really like Cooper Cup. So I think it's going to be a little bit different than last season where Puka got most of it and, Cooper Cup was injured and, in and out of the lineup. So moving on here to our wide receiver 11, we have Mr. DK Metcalf, who Joe's the only one who has him inside his top 12, but that just shows where the other guys that we have, there's a lot of differences of opinion. So with DK Metcalf, I'm at 13. Rich has him at 13. Chris also has 13. Joe's got him at the wide receiver 12. So we're all kind of about the same spot with him. DK Metcalf is just one of these proven guys. Doesn't really matter what he does. He's a touchdown threat. He gets the yardage. He's on a team that he did great things with when Geno Smith was the quarterback. I know that's kind of what's keeping him back for me is just the quarterback play. If last season is more or less what we see this season, then this is probably a good spot to have him. But what do you guys think about DK with Tyler Lockett still there and probably his last season as a Seahawk? The struggles that Geno Smith had last year, as well as the potential breakout for Jackson Smith and Jigba.
Personally, I think DK is just solid, right? Which is why we all have him on the same place. I don't have to justify it too much. He is, an athletic freak. If I think circumstances were slightly different at the QB position, he'd be ranked higher. Who knows what the ceiling actually is to a certain extent. But yeah, I don't really have to justify it too much. We're all around the same spot here. We kind of know what he can do. I don't, I'm not too worried about the JSN taking over the number one yet. I think Lockett will kind of start phasing out, and JSN will take the number two. And I have a feeling that Geno Smith will just kind of have a similar year of just being a middling quarterback, something around like the 20 to 15 mark, probably. But yeah, that's about it.
I mean, for me, honestly, with DK, I love where he is being drafted in the kind of back of the fourth round there. As far as his production since the start, I mean, he's been a monster, as far as just a solid wide receiver to your team. I know there's been the down weeks and all, but last season, you have to take it with a grain of salt. He did have the least amount of receptions in his career, other than, of course, his rookie season, but I feel like with the slow start there, you can't really count that per se so much. So if he can get back to a year or two ago to where he was getting 75 to these 90 receptions, this is when he was, I feel, better for your fantasy team. And even during the year where he got the 75 receptions, which was only about 10 more than where he did last season, he was able to produce 12 touchdowns, which that for your team is going to definitely help. So, I mean, if he can give you a better TD, performance, and I know it's not exactly the best stat to kind of work with there, as TDs can be up and down, but nonetheless, um, overall, as far as DK himself, solid wide receiver 2 for your team, in my opinion.
Yeah, he's. I would love him as a wide receiver too. Wide receiver 1, that's where I get a little, hesitant, just based on where he's going right now. I mean, we have him above consensus. He's going as the 18th wide receiver. Um, so I guess we're all kind of high on him, but we'll see. Next guy here is Mr. Mike Evans, one of Joe's my guys for the 2024 season, one of his heroes. I am at 15. Rich has him at 9. Joe at 11. And Chris down at 24. So, Chris, why don't you go first to besmirch the man, and then we'll let Rich defend him.
I'm going to be honest with you. I have nothing to really besmirch him for. I think he's a quality player. I could be so wrong, right? 100%. I just have, this is once again how all fantasy football decisions usually go. You go based on a feeling. I just have a weird feeling that Chris Godwin is going to be the guy this year. I don't know why. I don't know. But I don't trust the Evans for some reason. He is the probably most consistent receiver that we have on this list, personally, in my opinion, so far. Which is, that track record. It's like, why would you doubt him? And like I said, I could be wrong. This is definitely my 50-50 coin flip. I won't be drafting him. This 24 mark is most definitely like, is it harsh? Probably, but I don't know. I don't think he's going to finish in the top 12. If he finishes somewhere like 17, 18 down to 24, it wouldn't surprise me. I have a feeling that this is the end of the Mike Evans sort of run of 1,000-yard receiving years over and over and over again. Like I said, could be wrong, but that's my opinion personally.
All right, Rich.
Well, sir, I think you're wrong.
Oh no! Not criticism.
I mean, honestly, it's just Mike Evans is the pinnacle of consistency in my eyes. It's tough to argue against that much consistency. I mean, we're talking 10 years of just straight 1,000-yard seasons. He plays every game. He's only missed, like in 2019, he missed the most amount of games. He still played 13 of them. So he's still just there for your team consistently, week in and out. And last season, we did see Baker Mayfield, quote unquote, figure it out, right? So, and how he also figured it out was that he threw these balls to Mike Evans, and Mike Evans is just a skilled enough wide receiver that he knows how to ball. And I just think it's going to be more of the same this year. Maybe after this year, we can start to see the decline, but I think he is just an outlier at his position.
Yeah, I mean, consecutive 1,000-yard seasons is nothing to scoff at. I mean, that's amazing. Especially, didn't matter what quarterback. I mean, back when it was Jameis Winston, you kind of figured because Jameis just likes to chuck it. Which I don't know if you guys heard. There might be a little trade ski for Jameis Winston. I heard the Giants in the mix for that, and I would love that personally, especially for Malik Neighbors. That'd be fun.
I cannot believe I'm in a position where I want Jameis Winston as my QB1 over my current QB1. What is wrong with us?
For fantasy, it would be amazing.
No, true. Honestly, Malik Neighbors stock goes way. Like I have him. I'm sure we'll talk about it later on. But I have him on the list. I'm sure some people don't like that pick. But yeah, no, it would be really good for his stock.
I'm getting in that car.
Oh, me too. Yeah. Candy or no candy, I'm in. Let's go. All right. Next guy here, the wide receiver 9 in our consensus rankings is Drake London of the Atlanta Falcons. Now, this is someone I have been going back and forth with all offseason. I want to believe, and I really, really do. But they're looking at Fantasy Pros ADP. I'm with consensus. I have him as the wide receiver 11 in my rankings. Rich and Joe at 8, and Chris at 10. So we're all thinking he's gonna sneak into the top 12. But what could go wrong? What do you guys think is the biggest thing that's going to hold him back from finally reaching what we think he's got the talent to do? So, Rich, I want to hear from you first.
Personally, I think it's just a matter of throwing out what we've seen and bringing in this new kind of quarterback that we know has had success in the past, right? So for me, I guess what could go wrong is really if that quarterback doesn't stay healthy, I mean, that's going to really tank it. I know, I mean, there's whispers of this is the Kyle Pitts here. So, I mean, maybe there's a chance that Kyle Pitts becomes the like a Mark Andrews per se, like the actual target, the number one target for that team. But I don't know, man. I mean, just from the athleticism, I think he can do it. As far as just be a great wide receiver, and with that, we've seen him rock with we've seen Kirk rock with Justin Jefferson. So why can't he do it with Drake London?
What about you, Chris?
I'm a little more hesitant to an extent. Obviously, I have him at 10. But just in general, it's a really weird situation because I think we're running into an issue where we have never actually seen him live up to any sort of potential because of quarterback issues, right? We don't actually know what you're getting. We have no idea what he actually could be, right? He could be a stud. He could not. We've seen flashes and glimpses, but that's about it. That I feel like that's why people are hesitating a bit. Now, I actually have him in one of my fantasy leagues that I've already drafted in. So I already do have some shares. So I am kind of there for him. I don't know if I'd put a first round pick into Drake London personally, but I think if you are, looking at like early second, and he somehow falls to you, maybe some other people are also reserved on him. I would take the chance. Why not? Go for it. Mid second, maybe as well. I mean, there are definitely opportunities there if there's like other players you're just a little more hesitant on, and you'd rather have someone who will probably be the number 1 or number 2 passing option. So yeah, I do like him though. I have number 10, but I understand why there is probably a little people are a little hesitant, so to speak.
The thing that's held him back, I mean, we just mentioned it, is the quarterback play. And he's also been in an offense that since he's been here in the NFL, rookie year was 2022, he's been on a team that has had a league high rushing attempts. So they were top 3 rushing in 2022. And last season they were top 3. The season before that, they were number 2 with the second most rushing attempts on the entire offense. So that is something that has been holding him back. They just haven't had that consistent quarterback to just trust and allow to throw the ball. I think Kirk Cousins, yes, coming off an injury, I do think he's the guy that's going to elevate this team. That's why I think we're all pretty bullish on, him, Pitts, Bijan. I think Darnell Mooney is going to be a sleeper this year. So this is going to be a new offense. It's kind of like how the old Lions, they were terrible. And you just was like, yeah, no, I don't want to touch that team. Now look at them. They have multiple players. You're like, yeah, I want to draft that guy. I want him on my team. For me, that's the Atlanta Falcons this season. And Drake London's a major part of that. I do think he's going to hit. And if he doesn't hit this year, sadly, I don't know if it's going to happen because Kirk Cousins looked amazing before the injury. So the sky's the limit. It just depends on if things click, which I do think they have the opportunity to do so. Now, moving on to our wide receiver 8, we have Mr. Garrett Wilson on the New York Jets. This is a guy that I kind of put a little cold water on recently in one of our more recent episodes. I have him at the wide receiver 10. Richie and Joe have him at 7. Chris, you have him way up at 5. So I'm going to go first, and then you can defend him. You can defend your boy here. So Garrett Wilson, to me, I already said it again in another episode. Go back and check that out. It's for me, it's a lot about the offense that he's a part of. Aaron Rodgers is 40 years old, coming off an Achilles tear. He didn't also look that great before he tore his Achilles when in his last season in Green Bay. Yes, I know there were different wide receiver weapons on that team, and there was a bunch of other things. It was the last dance on the Packers, all yada, yada, yada. But still, the fact remains he was not the epitome of what you wanted in fantasy or the NFL. He was okay, but that's what happens with sometimes these quarterbacks. They age and it just doesn't work out. Garrett Wilson is going to need an insane touchdown efficiency, which he has yet to have. Now, Aaron Rodgers could like him and could want him to, but I don't know exactly what that's going to do or what that's going to look like. So I'm willing to take the shot at him, but I'm going to push him down just a slight bit. So, Rich, what do you think? And then we'll go to Chris.
Well, I'm in on him. You know, he has managed to get the quarterback room. He has managed to still be a 1,000 yard receiver in his last 2 seasons, and for me, I really like that. You know, that's something that I think sticks to me. And overall, I still believe in Aaron Rodgers. So if what what I believe is true, I think this is going to be a good year for the Jets. And with that, they're going to need Garrett Wilson to do what he was paid to do, what he was drafted highly to do, and it's a similar situation like the Falcons where you have this older quarterback, but of course, young and a young wide receiver. So it's interesting. It's going to be interesting to see which one I think plays out. I hope the best. I hope for the best for both of them, but overall, I'm more excited and I'm more believing this Garrett Wilson and Aaron Rodgers connection.
Yeah. First, just want to apologize. My camera literally unplugged from the computer. I yanked on something by mistake. My apologies. But secondly, I believe in the Aaron Rodgers resurgence to a certain extent, as Richie just mentioned. I'm not super I'm not gonna be like, oh my god, he's gonna be the MVP or blah blah blah. But he's gonna be good enough to support Garrett Wilson, I think, in my opinion. And that's pretty much all I need. I just need a competent quarterback. And I mean, if all else fails, the backup is Tyrod Taylor, and he is also halfway decent. We have to remember that there really was a fall last year because Zach Wilson was the backup and he did well for a game or two and then fell off. Mike White then came in, did well for a game or two, then fell off. There was no consistency. Tyrod Taylor we know can at least play ball. He's not the greatest things in sliced bread, but he is still a competent quarterback who can also dish him out the ball, in my personal opinion, if the need does arise where he has to play. I don't think that will be the case. I really only think that will happen if he, God forbid, gets injured again, which I hope for all Jets fans that doesn't happen. I think you guys deserve something. But yeah, that's about it. Yeah, I truthfully think that this could be a fantastic year.
I hope so. So we've been excited. Just watching him play football, he's great. Just he passes the eye test. It just really depends on for fantasy if that works out. So now we're gonna go up to our wide receiver 7 in our consensus, Mr. Marvin Harrison Jr., rookie on the Arizona Cardinals. I am at 6, Rich at 11, Joe at 5, and Chris at 12. He's part of the reason why I had Kyler Murray as my hero of the season. If he's as good as he looks, we've been told, we've seen, we've heard, basically you name it, he's done it. And if he hits, Kyler Murray is going to be great. So I think I have him in my rankings very, very high. Looking at my stats right now, I have him about 1,300 yards receiving in his rookie season. So I'm very excited for him and what he brings to the NFL as well as this offense on the Cardinals, which he only really has competition with Trey McBride and Michael Wilson to an extent. I do think he's the immediate number 1 wide receiver, and he's going to be a top 6 wide receiver in fantasy this season. What do you guys think about Marvin Harrison?
Rich, why don't you go first? Your thoughts.
I will go first. And I mean, it's not that I hate him because obviously we still have him ranked in this top 12, right? But just on the back half, and that's just the hesitance that comes with a rookie wide receiver coming into the league. That of course we just haven't seen it yet. I understand Kyler Murray has done it before with an alpha wide receiver. We saw some great play with DeAndre Hopkins previously, to name just that. Or Hollywood Brown also was great for a little bit there as well. So, I mean, I can see it working out. This is why I do believe, and I'm on. I do have him in the top 12 here. But of course, just really the only thing that's pushing me back a little bit is the fact that he is a rookie, and I feel like there has to be a little bit of acclimation that needs to happen.
I agree. She's really only there because he's a rookie. Could be wrong. Could be better, but I'm just hesitant on the rookie to an extent. But I do have a question I'd like to pose to the both of you. Because in another dynasty league that I'm in, I saw a trade go down, and it made me want to think about this in a deeper sort of way. Obviously, last year in the 2023 draft, the big guy was Bijan Robinson, and this year is Marvin Harrison Jr. So I asked the question here: would you rather have Bijan Robinson or Marvin Harrison Jr. on your dynasty team? I know we're looking at redraft, but I'm just curious from that perspective. What's the thought process? Who would you rather have more?
In a vacuum, for me, it's Bijan Robinson.
Okay.
I feel like that might be an unpopular opinion just because he's a running back and running backs don't hold that much value, but I feel like Bijan Robinson does catch the ball, and we've seen him on an NFL field look amazing. So to me, it kind of takes a little bit of the guesswork out. What do you think, Rich? Which way do you lean?
I mean, ultimately, it comes down to what your team needs are. I think for me, most importantly. But that being said, I do have that tendency to lean the wide receiver just because of that shelf life, where like you just mentioned, the running back typically has a shorter run or than the wide receivers do. But that's it's tough because I can also see this season going where Bijan ends up being a top 3 or the overall number 1 running back, and you can get a haul for a player like that where they're going to decline, and then Marvin Harrison should only progress really in his sophomore year. So you have to look at it in kind of two lights there.
It's an interesting trade. I feel like in our league, I guarantee you that would not go down.
I was surprised it happened
yeah.
in this league.
Yeah.
It was very so. I think I don't know. I'm not getting to specifics, so it'll take too long. But I believe the trade was Bijan, and then also I think their first. And I think there was some other supplementary stuff in this trade, but those were like the headliners for this year. It was Bijan and their first for their 101 overall. I think he had like the 108, 109, I think, in a 12-person league. So it goes down to 12. So yeah, I think that was the trade, which but yeah, I thought I would bring that question up to here when we talked about Marvin Harrison Jr. Anywho,
if you have any trades like that, comment below because we want to see trades to
please by all means.
Just because we're curious, we want to see too. We make some crazy trades as well. But moving on here, we have we're up to the top 6 in our rankings. Justin Jefferson slots in at wide receiver 6. I'm down at 8, and the rest of the guys have him at 6. So, Rich, I know you're the resident Justin Jefferson truther. So, make your case for why he should be in the top 6.
Well, plain and simple, he's the best wide receiver in football. I mean, he's elite as far as his ability and what he can do. But it's it's going to be a tough sledding year for him, I believe. So this is why I feel like I'm on the outside looking in on that top 5. So I pour a little bit of a champagne out for him and hope that the quarterback room gets improved. But I still have faith in, like I said, who I believe is the best wide receiver in football. So, I mean, I do think that with his skills and with his route running, I think he's still going to be able to get open and, ultimately someone's got to score. Can't just be a sleep show the entire game. I mean, I hope not, at least.
It ain't getting better this season. I can guarantee you that. So we've seen Sam Darnold experiment multiple times, and that's why. Yes, he is 100% probably the greatest wide receiver in the NFL currently. But for fantasy, there are just too many things that I see that can go wrong. And even if things go okay, he's not going to return that value. Right now, he's going, according to the Fantasy Pros ADP, he's going as a wide receiver 3 in drafts. That is basically, I don't care. Sam Darnold will figure it out. I'm going to put my faith in my fantasy roster's fate into the hands of a man who's now on his 3rd or 4th team. And was forced into the starting position because the guy ahead of him is now on season-ending IR. I'm not willing to do that. I could look stupid at the end of the season. We could be talking about Justin Jefferson being, top 2 at the position, and he's back, and doesn't matter who the quarterback is. He's just that freaking good. I'm not willing to bet that at all. So that's why I have him down at 8. Sam Darnold has a very, very bad completion percentage. He is at a career, I think he's like sub 62. So you're talking only a little bit over 50% is making it to the player. So it's just not a bet I'm willing to take. And I'll throw me up wherever. You could post this and stuff and shame me at the end of the season when it doesn't happen. But I'm gonna call Justin Jefferson a bust for 2024.
Whoa,
Yeah,
that is bold. I won't go as far as saying he's a bust, but I will say that I'm also semi-avoiding him in drafts. I do want everyone. I got reminded of this the other day. Sam Darnold was on the 49ers with Debo and Ayuk, and was still not great. So, well, of course, the 2 receivers are nowhere near the caliber of Justin Jefferson. They're still really good. And that kind of, he worries me a bit. The only thing that, I think I'm more okay with at the current moment is that he's coming into this role before the season starts. He has time to acclimate to this sort of offense. Whether or not it's going to mean anything, sorry, I can't speak English. Who knows? I definitely don't. I'm not going to know. And I'm in a keeper league, which I also have Justin Jefferson. Now, I'm going to keep Justin Jefferson in that league for the future. If I have to lose 1 year, so be it. But I'm definitely not looking forward to it to an extent. I hope, once again, I'm with Matt. I hope I'm wrong. I hope he has a fantastic year. I hope Sam Darnold pulls like a Baker. This could be the next iteration of Baker Mayfield for all we know. You're shaking your head no. I know. Not. I'm allowed to say that though. I'm allowed to say these things. I'm allowed to hope. But yeah, that's all.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to watch this team because I think they're going to be up there in pass attempts because that's just the Kevin O'Connell offense. He's going to just try to throw as much as possible. I just feel like he's going to be throwing out a lot because I don't think Sam Darnold can handle it. But moving into our top 5, coming in at 5 is A.J. Brown on the Philadelphia Eagles. He is a guy I've been moving up and down, basically back and forth between him and Justin Jefferson, and I've landed on he's going to go ahead of Justin Jefferson for me. A.J. Brown is a pretty consistent wide receiver, and last season there was a stretch of games where he was just lights out winning people weeks, and I know that because one of the guys, this guy right down here, had him and was basically just bulldozing over teams because he had him. AJ Brown is a touchdown machine, the clear-cut number one wide receiver on his offense, and he's got rapport with Jalen Hurts. I know there were a couple things last season that kind of didn't seem to work out midway through the year. The Eagles' offense kind of got figured out by the opposing defenses, but I expect having the new offensive coordinator over there is going to open things up, and we should have a bounce back year for AJ Brown, and he will remain a top option. So, Chris, why don't you tell us why you're a little bit lower on him?
Yeah. To be quite honest with you, it was really tough for me to put AJ Brown somewhere because I do think he could be a top 5 receiver, but I also I don't think there's any issue with I'm not worried about the chemistry between Jalen Hurts or AJ Brown. I'm actually just worried about the sort of mouths to feed situation. I have him at 8 because I just think, I mean, with also the addition of now Dotson on the team and Devonta Smith and Saquon Barkley and Goddard's still there. I mean, I just don't know if he'll have the top 5 finish. He could, very, very possible could. But that's why I'm just a little lower. But this is a very close one for me. Very easily could put him at number 5 or anywhere between 5 and 8. Very easily could do that. I think there's a very thin line for me to move in there.
Anything you wanted to add, Rich, on AJ Brown?
I mean, honestly, it's just that for me, AJ Brown is a top 5 receiver this year. I think he has potential really to hit that top 3. We did see in the beginning stretch there before the bye week that he was just dominating, as Matt Hyde mentioned. And then we kind of collapsed from there on out, and that's kind of attributed to what the Eagles were or how the Eagles were as a whole. So I'm gonna kind of throw that end of the season out. I've had AJ Brown for a little bit now, and he's been a pleasure. So I'm glad I have him on my team. I think we're going to see more of the same from what we saw in the beginning of last season. Yeah, no, I'm completely in on AJ Brown.
Guys, look at this guy. Has the wide receiver core of Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, and AJ Brown. What a guy. He thinks he's so cool.
It took work, I'll tell you. It was built over a couple of years, but it's been fun.
Yes, it was. Well, you got 2 of those guys out of one trade. It was a good trade, but
thank you, Mike Evans.
Exactly, yeah. The gift that keeps on giving. So, as Chris alluded to, Jamar Chase actually comes in at our wide receiver 4 in our rankings. I have him at 4, so does Rich. Joe has him at 2, and Chris at 3. Not really too much to pick apart here. Jamar Chase has been a stud ever since he stepped foot on the NFL roster, and it's crazy if you all remember that in preseason he could not catch a football, and now he cannot stop catching a football. So it's funny how things turn that way. But another year with last season was a lost year. Jake Browning came in at the end of the season with Joe Burrow injured and didn't look that great. So if Joe Burrow is healthy, which all accounts say he is, I haven't heard really any news that say he's been limited in any way, shape, or form. Jamar Chase is just gonna smash this season, and you can book that. His per game numbers are astronomical. He just gets it done. It's plain and simple. But anything else you 2 would like to add about Jamar Chase?
I think the only thing I'm going to add is, I'm calling it now, be prepared for a T. Higgins trade sometime during the season. I have a feeling it's going to happen. Weird feeling. And that will only make him better. But yeah, nothing else to add. He's just good. He's just really good.
Yeah, I mean, he ended as still ranked as the 13th wide receiver in fantasy with Jake Browning. So, I mean, if Joe Burrow is healthy, which all signs point to he is, I think we're going to see a great year from Jamar.
Yeah, he's been very, very good. Last year, he had 145 targets, 100 receptions, 1,216 yards, 7 touchdowns, and that was with missing a game. So I think he could
Right.
do
I mean,
a lot better stuff too.
I guess it is fair to say that, there is the whole question of him not showing up, not practicing right, but I think it's been a little cleared up as of late. He is coming back, and head coach expects him to be there for week 1. So I believe we shouldn't be setting off any alarms at this point, but could cause some people to not pick him and let him slide a pick or two further down the draft if they are a little worrisome about that news.
Yeah, is that enough for you to put a little cold water on him, or are you just buying the dip?
I'm not gonna lie to you. Draft from the other day, it's a little bit of hesitancy. I kind of was back and forth. I don't know if I made the right choice. We won't break it apart, but we'll see. We'll see. I think now I'm back. I'm fully back in, but I was definitely a little cold earlier into last week.
All right, so we're heading into the top 3 now. This is just a little bit of a warning for this next guy here. Okay. So if you have the Pepto, get it, because I'm going to let Chris take this one over because he's bringing some spice. So if you're a little sensitive to spice, maybe just muffle a little bit. But Chris, why don't you give this guy?
At our consensus wide receiver number 3 with Matt High at rank number 3, with Richie Kopech at rank number 3, Joe Capozzi at rank 4, but I, with my all-seeing eye, have him at rank 1. Why? Why would I do something so insane? No, in all seriousness, now that we're done with the theatrics, I truthfully think that the man who writes the names down of every receiver drafted before him, and whatever other stats he writes down, these guys finished higher in fantasy than me this year. I'm gonna take this man is hell bent on being the best, and I think all the pieces around him, he's going to do it. My justification for this is that before the season started, now of course injuries were a part of this, right? Kirk Cousins went down, which is why Justin Jefferson didn't finish anywhere near the number 1. Joe Burrow went down, which is why Jamar Chase didn't finish up with the number 1, leaving this kind of void for someone else to fill in. CeeDee Lamb enters, right? Finishing number 1 last year in most formats for fantasy football. Right there, Tyreek Hill behind him, right? I don't think anything that's going to happen. I think, obviously JT McCarthy's already down. We already talked about all of that before. I don't think Joe Burrow's going to go down. I just think that this connection between Jared Goff and the offense, how Amon-Ra St. Brown, I feel like he just gets better year after year. I think he's going to be the guy. I really, really do. I think he's going to come in and he's going to be an insane threat. I don't think he's going to break some insane records of I believe it's 2,000 receiving yards, something like that, right? Yeah, that's the thing to be. I don't think they're going to go that far out, but I truthfully think he will finish as the wide receiver 1 this year. And I will say this: the Lions will most definitely make the Super Bowl. Write that one down. That is where I'm at with this team. I think Dan Campbell is going to get with his men in the army of the Lions, get together in the den, and they're going to go over the battle strategy, and he's going to go, we're going to go for it on 4th down every single time. And he's going to go out there and throw 40-yard bombs to him on St. Brown. Obviously, exaggerated, but that truthfully, I think if there was a year for him to do it, now's the time. From a guy who literally, when he exploded onto the scene, no one drafted him. This was a waiver wire pickup in the middle of that season a couple years ago. Matt did it. I did it as well. He won me in fantasy league when that happened. This is it. 100%. This is the time right now where he can do it. All the pieces are there. He has the amazing offense. The line is a little bit better. The defense is getting there. The coaching is great for what he needs to be right now. A pass-catching machine. That's about it. I'm drafting Amon-Ra St. Brown at almost every chance I get if I have the ability to.
Yeah, I love Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's one of my targets this year if I can get the opportunity to draft him. I might take it right now, I don't know if I'd take him over some of the running backs like Brees Hall or Bijan if they fall, but I would love to have him. I have him in Dynasty, so it's been a wonderful, wonderful ride. The question for him is mostly touchdowns. Can he sustain, double-digit touchdowns? Which last season was the first year he did that. His previous seasons he had 6 and 5. But last year, 1,515 yards. He was just targeted every opportunity. And another cool thing that should help for this season is the Lions' schedule is very, very good. It's amazing. They play inside in domes, and Jared Goff crushes inside in domes. So that should definitely help. I'm talking myself into ranking Jared Goff higher just by going through
I
some.
think I was the one that had right. I think I was the highest on Jared Goff when we did our QB episode.
Yeah, and I think I need to update that a little bit. For me, I have him at 13, so I'm just outside. So I'm going to bump someone out. I think I'm going to bump someone out. I don't know who, but someone's going out of the top 12, and Jared Goff is going into his position. So, Rich, Amon Ra.
I mean, you guys really said wonderful things about Amon Ra. I completely agree. I also have a share of him in a dynasty league, so I have had the fun of watching him go from my late round, second round pick to what is now a top, what we say 3, and according to Chris, number 1 overall wide receiver. I mean, guy is a stud. The schedule looks great. We know what Jared Goff is capable of in this indoor environment. So love to see it. I mean, let's bring it on. I'm with you on that. Lions to the Super Bowl.
There we go.
Let's go. All right. We're down to 2. Our wide receiver 2 consensus is Tyreek Hill. I'm at 2, Rich at 2, Joe at 3, Chris at 4. So we're gonna group these two guys together, just because they're 1 and 2 in most rankings right now. Tyreek Hill is the consensus number 1 according to Fantasy Pros ADP. So CeeDee Lamb just got paid a bunch of money by the Dallas Cowboys. We were all waiting for that news. Boy got paid $136 million deal. I am at 1. So Rich, you have at 1. Joe's got him at 1. Chris at 2. So if you were in a draft today, right this second, you have the second overall pick. Christian McCaffrey went 101. Which one of these guys are you taking?
Go ahead, Rich.
So you're saying Chris McCaffrey's gone, right? And I'm looking between CeeDee or Tyreek.
Yeah.
Just so I understand you correctly. Yeah. So I think I'm picking CeeDee. No real question for me. I mean, I got slayed by CeeDee last season, and I think at this point, I would like to participate in some of that. I know Tyreek can be explosive, but there is the Jalen Waddle factor there, and some of the running back play that can be involved. I think in the Cowboys scenario, it is the CeeDee show, and yeah, boys elite, definitely a wide receiver 1.
My rankings speak for themselves. I have Tyreek at 4 overall. My 1 through 4 are very, very thin on a wire, to be quite honest with you. But I do have him at 4, which means because I have CeeDee at 2 overall, I'm taking CeeDee 100% if I have that number 2 and CMC's off the board.
All righty. Yeah, I mean, you can't go wrong with either one of those guys. It's either the guy who could lead the league in receiving yards or the guy who can lead the league in receiving yards, because they both can. They're just both that good. CeeDee Lamb last season was a lot of fun to have on my roster. I was trying to acquire him in our dynasty league, but the man said no. Darn you. Would have been great. Would have won my league, but hey, he's sitting there with the trophy in the corner of his screen, right above his name for those that are watching on YouTube. There's really not much to say. These guys are both going to kill it this year, and we're going to have a lot of fun going over it. Anything you guys want to add before we head out this evening?
Yeah, do you want to go over our guys who didn't make it?
That would be a good idea. Let's do it. So, Chris, why don't you go first? Your idea.
Yeah. So before we go on, we each have one guy who didn't make it. According I went through here, so we have each of us have one guy that we have in our top 12 that wasn't in our consensus here. So my guy, he's a bit lower. So Matt actually has him 21, Richie at 22, and Joe at 27. I have him at rank 9. DJ Moore, Chicago Bears #1 receiver. Now I understand the sort of hesitancy with wanting to pick DJ Moore, rookie quarterback. Why can't I think? Oh, Keenan Allen. Thank you. There we go. New wide receiver guy, and also Roma Dunze as well, loading up in the arsenal. However, with all of that in mind, I have a feeling, and this is going to sound really bad. I actually think this is just an upgraded Seahawks offense. If you make DJ Moore, DK Metcalf, you make Keenan Allen, Tyler Lockett, and now you have Roma Dunze as JSN. I actually literally the similarities are all there, except I'm literally banking on the fact that the Bears will be better than the Seahawks offensively in terms of wide receiver efficiency.
And DK Metcalf is a mongoloid of a man compared to DJ.
That is so true. That is so true. I'm just saying, you know what I'm trying to do here. Okay, I'm just, but you're right. He is an absolute animal compared to DJ Moore. But yeah, coming off last season, I believe he finishes like the 5 or 6 wide receiver in our league, something around there. He was an absolute boon for me. I was one that had him. Thank you, Joe, I believe, was the one that gave him to me through a trade. I truthfully think that I don't think he's going to reach that height again because of all those factors, but I'm banking on Caleb being at least halfway decent in his first year. I don't think he'll be CJ Stroud. If he is, great for me. But if he's not, he'll just be halfway decent. He'll be the guy. And that's truthfully all I need sometimes for a quarterback to make the #1 target somewhere in that realm, right? He very clearly can reach that peak with a quarterback that I guess we can assume is worse than Justin Fields. So now all we have to do is push the pedal to the metal here a little bit, kind of do back-to-back seasons, top 10 ranking. So yeah, I have DJ Moore at number 9.
It's pretty bold. How about you, Rich? I forgot you read the script.
Yeah, I have it. Yeah, it's right here. Yeah.
So my guy that I had, I guess that was ranked highly for me, but you guys are all haters on, is Davante Adams. I have him ranked as the 10th wide receiver. You guys, Joe and Chris at 15, Matt at 19. I understand, Raiders offense isn't exactly the flashiest looking offense right now, so I can see why the hate is there. But no, Davante, is a stud. I think Gardner Minshew has some surprising game in him and can possibly make him relevant. And, when he doesn't, then, we've seen him and Aaron Rodgers play together, so it's going to look great when he gets traded to the Jets.
It feels so long ago when I saw those two play together. It feels so long ago.
No, yeah, but it's really just a matter of a little bit of what we had last year. I thought Aiden O'Connell was subpar at best, and still had Davante Adams had some great days. But Gardner Minshew, I do believe in more, so I think that Davante Adams will be just fine.
Good stuff. So I'm going to cheat a little bit right here. I'm going to actually give 2 guys because I had 2 guys in my top 12 that did not make it in our consensus because you guys are haters. So first guy here is going to be Nico Collins, who finished as our consensus wide receiver 15. One of my other heroes of the 2024 season. Plain and simple, he had a rapport with CJ Stroud. He broke out last year. He showed flashes, earlier in his career. this is an offense that is going to throw the football, and he's going to be a huge, huge benefactor of it. I do not believe in Stephon Diggs on this offense, with his age and just what happened last year on the Bills, how he was phased out of the offense. So I'm not going to go too much into detail because I already did that in the Heroes episode. So go back and check that out to hear more. Other guy here is another person who I really, really enjoy, really like. He's another hero of mine. Jalen Waddle on the Miami Dolphins. He was a top 12 wide receiver with Tyreek Hill alongside him in the past. Last year was riddled with injuries. I think he can come back and do the same thing again. This is an offense that is led by Tua Tagovailoa. They are going to run the ball, but they're also going to be very efficient on the passing game. And I think he's someone that is going to benefit from Tua, who led the NFL in receiving and passing yards last season. So Jalen Waddle is going to be just fine, and I think he's a really, really good value. So those are the two guys I wanted to bring up. So I'm glad we got through that. So we're done. Rankings shows are over. Just in time for the season, we are going to be doing our final Heroes of Fantasy Football mock draft, where we're all going to pick a different slot, and we're going to see which team comes out on top. Go pick by pick, figure it out. So for those of you drafting this week, good luck. Any questions for us, you can reach us on our X account, leave a comment below. If you can go on Apple Podcasts and leave us a review with a question, we will answer it on one of the next upcoming shows. We're here for the entire season, so stick around. Don't miss out on what we have coming up. So we're also our draft is on September 1st. We're trying to put something together. We're going to have some footage going out there with our actual draft with a bunch of our friends. So it's going to be a fun event. There will be some surprises. So definitely check that out as well. We will be posting links to that information. So stay tuned. All right, gentlemen, that is going to do it. Thank you for tuning in to another episode, and we'll see everyone on the next show. So long, everyone.
And
thank you again for tuning in to another episode of the Heroes of Fantasy Football podcast. Follow us on Twitter at TheHeroesFF.